some biblical principles for effective money management. And I'm not going to finish it today. I don't see how I have more than I can complete today. Because we really want to see you doing well. All of us, a friend of mine says that if you can manage money, you can manage life. If you can manage money, you can manage life. That's what he says. So learning how to manage money is important. I was reading a book titled Millionaire Next Door. I will cite something from it in a minute. And one of the observations the writers make is that many Americans, of course they're writing in the American context, many Americans have not learned how to manage money and how to manage wealth. I discovered something about myself as I was preparing. You know, I'm a little daft. It takes me a little while sometimes to recognize some things about myself. But you always hear me say that I don't worry about money, right? You always hear me say that. I don't worry about money. And one of the reasons I gave you is that since I've been 16 years old, I've been very faithful to God. And my understanding of the biblical principles is that God will take care of me. That's what I believe, and I live that way. But I realized something as I was preparing, that there's another reason I don't worry about money. And that is because I am learning the principles of good money management. And I will probably give you some examples later on. And when you manage money well, you have less stress with money. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Like I said, I'm not going to finish this, but we'll see how far we get today. Luke chapter 12, from verse 13 to verse 21. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Now, this kind of discussion was common in Jesus' day because of how wealth was transferred. The first son, the firstborn, had a particular privilege. And so there were often disputes about wealth when somebody died. I mean, it happens in Trinidad too. There are often disputes about wealth and who gets what when somebody dies. So there was apparently some kind of dispute. It's interesting, the people who comment on this observe that this guy seemed not to have been listening to anything Jesus was saying. Because if you read the verses before, there are some things that Jesus said that would be pertinent to how we respond to things like this. But so he came to Jesus with this request, and Jesus' response is quite interesting, and we might wonder why he responds the way he does. And then he said to them, "Watch out and be on your guard against all kinds of greed." Or the King James uses the word covetousness, which is greed for money. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich towards God." Now, I'm going to repeat myself. Some things I will say as I complete this, probably this week, next week. I have said before, and I'm very conscious of it, that I am repeating some things, but some things bear repeating. Before I go on, I want to take a quick moment and define wealth and share one thing else with you. What is wealth? How do you define it? So if somebody lives in a castle, is that wealth? If somebody drives a BMW or a Range Rover or a Mercedes, is that wealth? If somebody goes on expensive trips, is that wealth? The answer is no. Driving a Range Rover doesn't tell me anything about your wealth. It only tells me about your spending. Living in a mansion doesn't tell me anything about your wealth. It only tells me about your spending. So what is wealth? There are people who probably better at this in the room than I could probably tell you. Wealth, from an accounting standpoint, I don't know if it's an accounting or finance standpoint, I'm watching Michelle over here, is measured by the difference between your assets and liabilities. So it's called your net worth. Am I correct, Michelle? Thank you. I'm correct. I tell people, don't take financial advice from pastors. Huh? Sometimes you feel because somebody is a pastor, they could talk about everything. So some of what I share with you, I give me a biblical principles. That's what I know, right? And I will share a little bit more because I read a lot in this area for my own benefit. So I will share some other things that some other people say, right, about wealth and management of wealth. So take it, some of those things you might want to take with a pinch of salt and check it for yourself, right? So wealth is net financial worth. So it's not just the things that you see, it's really a balance that is unseen. How much do you owe? So you can be living in $1 million house, but you owe $5 million. Then you're really not wealthy, you're poor. In fact, you're bankrupt. Although you're looking like you are doing well. Am I making sense still? This book, The Millionaire Next Door, they found 7 things about the average millionaire. Let me just read what the 7 things were. Number 1, and we make this point again, it's an important point. They live below their means. First thing, they live below their means. Number 2, they allocate their time and energy. And this is from research on actual wealthy people, right? These guys advise Fortune 500 companies and so on about marketing. Hence the reason they research wealth and the wealthy. The second thing, they allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently in ways conducive to building wealth. Third, they believe that financial independence is more important than displaying high social status. See what I was telling you just now about, sometimes we're more concerned about how the thing look than what it really is. Third, their parents did not provide economic outpatient care. Was their parents kind of left them to make life because, people like me started with nothing, and many people in the room. Some people, when they start with too much, end up with nothing because they have not learned the principles of wealth management and accumulation. Number 5, their children are economically self-sufficient. So the children are not depending on, they're grown children, of course. They're grown children. 6, they are proficient in targeting market opportunities. And 7, they chose the right occupation. And those relate to all of us. Some of us are different places in life. Some of us still in school, some of us outside of school, some of us are older. We are different places in life. But those things relate to all of us, right? I'm going to start by talking about the goal of wealth creation from the scriptures. The goal of wealth creation. Why it is that we want to have wealth. Luke chapter 12, verse 13, says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And Jesus' reply is, "Who appointed me a judge or arbiter between you?" And Jesus seems to be focusing on priorities a bit in how he responds to this guy who you think is asking him a legitimate question. So why should we want to, let me say something else. You should want to be wealthy. Nobody here wants to have anything, right? Because Christians are not supposed to want to be wealthy. So I know you're not telling me the truth. All right? You should want to be wealthy. Right? For the right reasons. Talk to me. For the right reasons. You should want to be wealthy for the right reasons. All right? So what are some of the right reasons? Number one is to honor God. Because this is why we live. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31. That was standard fare in my day as a young Christian. Whether therefore you eat or drink, that's King James, or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. So whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God. One of my favorite verses, this is a life scripture for me, in Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 9 and 10, which says, honor the Lord with your substance, with the first fruits of all your increase. Honor the Lord with your substance, with the first fruits of all your increase. King James, so shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses break forth or burst forth with new wine. And I've lived by that verse for a long time. And you know, I interpret this verse in a simple way. Anytime my income increases, my giving to God increases. You honor the Lord with the first fruits of all your, that's how I interpret that verse, of all my increase. So I deliberately shift my giving every time my income increases for whatever reason. Right? So one of the first reasons we should want to be wealthy is to honor God. You know, I always talk about, I've been involved in theological education for about 35 years and in the church world for longer. And I always lament the fact that sometimes things are so difficult to get done in the church world. Things are so difficult to get done in our theological colleges. I was in a conversation this week with some people, and they were talking about theological colleges, and I'm telling them almost all the theological colleges around the world are suffering. Because I deal with them, I talk to the people, I meet them in different places in the world, and they are struggling. Most of them are struggling, and I always ask myself, you know, why is that so, and why are things so difficult to get done in the kingdom of God? Because I see other things happening in other spheres, and they don't seem to be so difficult. You know, so I ask myself this question. I don't yet have an answer, a full answer. I'm still thinking about it. I told you I'm a little daft sometimes. It takes me a while to figure things out, some things. You know, so wouldn't it be wonderful? You know, my greatest joy as a pastor is when I need to do something, I don't have to worry about where I get the money. That's my great. I'm not talking about personally. I mean, something in church, whether it's ministry, whatever. That's my greatest joy as a pastor. When I want to do something, I have the money to do it. I don't have to worry about where you're going to get the money to do this. You know, because so wouldn't it be great that we were all wealthy, so that when the church needs to do something, we talk about getting a bus that will cost $100,000. Somebody says, "No worry about that, pastor. I can pay for that." You know. You know, we're not all able to do that. I know that, right? But you know, because we all wealthy. There's another message. I don't know if I'll preach it about being needed and being needy. The difference between being needed and being needy. Right? And I may not go there at all. They will distract me. So, I was saying the first reason is to honor God. In Ephesians 4 verse 28, and we spoke about this before, it says, he who has been stealing, last week we mentioned it as a matter of fact, must steal no longer, but must work with his hands, doing something useful, must work, doing something useful with his own hands, that he may have something to share with those in need. And the first principle there, and the second reason why you want wealth, so you will have. Right? You will have. You can take care of your own needs. In Proverbs 6 and verse 6, we have this picture of the ant. It says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer, gathers its food at harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a bandit, and scarcity like something." I mispaced the verse. Like an armed man, I think is what the text says, right? And so really it's this notion of, it's sort of poverty and lack, not having, right? And my description of prosperity, I've said this to you before, is not having a lot of money in the bank necessarily. It's having what you need when you need it. So if I need $1 million tomorrow, I have it. So I mightn't have it today, but when I need it tomorrow, I have it. I'm prosperous. I don't need nothing else, because money is to do stuff. Money is not to hoard. It's to do stuff. It's to live life. Right? So that we will have. So that verse says that ye may have something. You may have something. Right? It's nice to walk around, if you care to, with money in your wallet. Why are you looking at me like that? You like to walk with no money in your wallet? You may choose to in these days. I only have about $20 in my wallet. That is by choice. Right? If I wanted to put money in my wallet, I could put money in my wallet. It's nice to know that you have. At least some people agree. The other people are still thinking about it. Right? So that you will have. Right? You will have. You can meet your needs. You can take care of your life. This is what I think all of us aspire to, that we will have. And then the other piece of it, he says, you will have to give so that you can give. So it's nice to know that I have. You know, when I have a need, I could take care of it. I don't necessarily have to have overflowing. Right, Peter? But I could take care of the things I need to take care of. And isn't it, my son listening to a song, you know, he's at an age now where he like kind of rap and thing, but the song really talks about, one of the lines in the song is that, I'll put this in English, not in rap, that, you understand what I mean, right? That is, we focus on receiving, but it is better to give. That's a line in the song. That's in English. You know, we focus on receiving. I don't know about you, isn't it, there's something when you're able to help somebody. When you're able to help somebody. So you can take care of yourself, and you can help somebody who is less fortunate than you are. You can give something to somebody who's in need. I understand sometimes you don't have to give, right? But you see, if you have, then of course that's a hard thing too, right? Whether you want to give or don't want to give, because you can have and you still don't give to nobody, right? Where we come back to that one. But it's a great thing when you're able to give. And you know, we talk about this as we study the Sermon on the Mount. To give anonymously. To give anonymously. Everybody don't need to know. But you can see somebody who's struggling, and you can reach out and say, let me help you. I think that's something we feel good about ourselves when we're able to do that. So he says that you will have, so to honor God, because all of life whether we have money, we don't have money, how we spend, how we save, whatever, all of life, how we live our lives every day, all of life is built or ought to be built around honoring God. So that's number one. Number two is that so we can meet our own needs. And number three, so that we are able to give. And that's the third reason. And there are scriptures that talk about those that I, for the sake of time, I will not refer to, but by inspiration they put it up, you will see them. So I want to suggest to you from a biblical standpoint, this is the goal of wealth creation. And to me, it's a reason why everybody should want to be wealthy. So that I could honor God, so that I will have, and so I can bless somebody else. I can give. Right? So that's the goal of wealth. The second principle that we find in Scripture is this, in that you have to survey what you have. You have to survey what you have. In the story, Luke 12 verse 16, he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. Now, who realizes that the ground has produced a good crop? Talk to me. Who realized this? Anybody? The rich man. So he's paying attention. Are you seeing me? He's paying attention. So it says, his ground produced a good crop. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And that doesn't mean they're my crops, it means my additional crops. Right? I have no place. How does he know that? He's paying attention. So you have to survey what you have. In Proverbs 27 verse 23, it says, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. That was wealth. I'm curious, when I see somebody come into the bank and they go to the teller machine and they put in something, then they see something, and then they put in something. When I sat behind him, I asked myself, so you don't know how much money you have? You come to the bank to find out? So I say, you're in trouble already. You know what's in your account? I know sometimes you're waiting on salary, right? Okay. Okay, buddy, I'll check to see if the salary come. You know, but when I see somebody do that and they take out $20, now, I don't mean to, don't look down on people, right? People in different places in life. Right? So, if I see take out $20, I know it's not salary I was looking for. It couldn't be. Right? So, you don't know how much money you have? If I have any money anywhere, you come ask me, I just take out my phone, I can tell you what it is. That there, that there, that there, that there. You have to know what you have. Talk to me. So it says, know the condition of your flocks. That's your wealth. A budget is a practical tool to survey what you have. It's not the only thing. You should really have something more complicated, called a personal financial statement. Dr. Michelle, if you want to know what that is, and Alan. And I'm sure who else, maybe Joy. Or Mr. Samuel over there. A personal financial statement. So let's start with the budget. A budget tells you what you have coming in, correct? And a budget doesn't tell you what you have going out. By a budget, you tell your money where to go. Are you following me? If you do not tell your money where to go at the end of the month, you will be asking it where it went. It's not sometimes by the middle of the month you're asking it where it went. So a budget tells your money where to go and where not to go. And in that way it gives you a kind of forecast, so you know what is coming in, what is going out. A personal financial statement goes beyond that, and it's, you know, I went to the bank the other day to do something, and I gave the guy my personal financial statement. He said, "You do this?" I say, "Yeah, I do that." Because every source, every asset is listed. That's basically what it is. Your furniture in your house, if you have any land, if you have any other property, if you have bank accounts, you have everything listed. And then you have all your liabilities listed. Like your credit card, which is the full amount that you could take, is a loan. Like whatever else. You have a loan, you have whatever. Making sense? Right? So that's how you survey. So at the beginning of the month, you know where you are. Making sense, right? Beginning of the month, you know where you are. So survey, know the state of your flux. Know the state of your flux. Know where you are. If you don't know where you are, right, you'll make decisions that will get you into further trouble. Everybody with me still? Right. The next thing. I give you 4 principles from 2 Corinthians. I'm going to go over them. You have to sow some of your income. You have to sow some of your income. I told you before, everything in your hand is a seed. Now, don't only think of money. Some of you living home by your parents, like Micaiah over here, you're living home by your parents. And you say, but I don't have nothing. I have a good friend of mine who he's asked me about Lee Kuan Yew, the president of Singapore, and he's referring to him these days, and he says, you know, he took Singapore and had nothing, and I keep interrupting him. That's not true. And he said again, he took Singapore and had nothing. I said, that's not true. It had something. Everybody has something. I was talking to Micaiah. You have time. Answer me, yes or no? You have a brain. You probably have some kind of inclination in some area. Am I making sense? Sometimes when we think about what we have, we only think about dollars and cents. And sometimes we say, I don't have anything. This is not true. Everybody has something. You have some experience. You have some skill. Sometimes you have skills you don't realize you have. So everything you have, I told you last week what Mike Murdoch said. He says, anything you want, you can get from what you have in your hand. It's quite a stretch, but it's a way of thinking. Anything you want, you can get from what you have in your hand. There's something in your hand that can help you to get anything you want. Am I making sense? You want a husband? Dress up like Esther. And be a good solid Christian like Esther. Got people looking for people like that. See what I mean? Yeah, they have no money. There are expensive ways to dress up and cheap ways to dress up, right, ladies? Yeah, when you match up some things, I see on Facebook somebody wrap up a thing. Yeah, you'll probably saw it. You know, when you dress up, nobody know you buy your thing by your hands. And who cares anyway? You're not looking good. You know, I'm a man, you have to excuse me. Can't be a woman. You say, I don't understand. My wife tell me she not to wear. Because I can't find, or when I trying to put something between your clothes, I can't find no place. So you tell me you're not to wear. I mean, I wear the same jacket week after week and I'm happy. Right? I know women created a little differently to bring a little color to the world. You know, I understand that. You know, but everything look good. Does it matter that you bought it? Talk to me. And so it says, the ground of a rich man produces a good crop. How does it produce a good crop? Because he sowed something in the ground. He sowed something in the ground. That's why it produced, if he did not sow anything, it could not produce a crop, because harvest responds to seed. We all know that term. Harvest responds to seed. If you don't sow anything, you don't get anything. And so, Galatians tells us that. I'm going to skipping some stuff here. I know. The other thing I like to add about harvest and seed is that harvest doesn't respond to seed. That's not a complete statement. I have some corn seeds home on a shelf for about 5 years now, and I ain't get no corn yet. Anybody could figure out why? So it's not just a seed, it's a seed that is sown. If you don't sow the seed, you're not getting anything. And I think I have some peas all on a shelf. I have a starch mango seed. I had it on a shelf. I put it in a little pot trying to get it to catch now. Seed that is sown. Right? I think I told you this story. It's a really powerful story about a place in the Sahara known as Sahel. It's a stretch of savanna, 4,000 miles wide, in the Sahara. I flew over the Sahara once, you know, and it's just brown, dust, nothing. I mean, like half an hour, 45 minutes you're flying, and nothing, just brown. Right, so this place in the Sahara, in May, June, July, and August, they get all the moisture, 4 months. May, June, July, August. After that, they get no rain for 8 months. And the year's food has to be grown in those 4 months. Right, so people they grow sorghum and milo. Those are grains in small fields, October to November, are beautiful months. Because the granaries are full, the harvest has come in, people sing and they dance, they eat 2 meals a day. That's the good days. How many people eat 2 meals a day? So I eat 2 meals at a time. Shall I see them boys yesterday? You know, at his in Cairo, the amount of things you bring on the beach, I say, well, the only thing I'm missing is the kitchen toilet, the toilet from the house. Is that what I tell you? Yeah. You have everything else. Bed, roof, food. Where was I now? 2 meals a day, you know, we have life nice, huh? You know, we take a lot of things for granted. That's the good days and the good time of year. They eat 2 meals a day. The sorghum is ground between 2 stones to make flour. Then they make a mush. And there's the meals they eat, you know? They make a mush, and they eat it hot. They roll it into little balls and they eat it, right, in some kind of sauce. Right, and it at least keeps their stomach. Many families don't have a morning meal. Right? By January, not one family in 50 is still eating 2 meals a day. By February, the evening meal diminishes. The meal shrinks even more during March, and children start to get sick because you can't stay healthy on a half a meal a day. April is a month that haunts my memory. There's somebody who lives there who's speaking. He says, in it, you hear the babies crying in the twilight. Most of the days are passed with only an evening cup of gruel. Then inevitably it happens. A 6 or 7-year-old boy comes running to his father one day with a sudden excitement. Daddy, Daddy, we've got grain, he shouts. Son, you know we haven't had grain for weeks. Yes, we have, the boy insists. Out in the hut where we keep the goats, there's a leather sack hanging up on the wall. I reached up, I put my hand down in it, and Daddy, there is grain in there. Give it to Mommy so she can make flour, and tonight our tummies can sleep. And the father stands motionless, the story goes. This is true, a true story, by the way. Son, we can't do that, he softly explains. That's next year's seed grain. It's the only thing between us and starvation. We've been waiting for the rains, and then we must use it. The rains finally arrive in May, and when they do, the young boy watches as his father takes his sack from the wall and does the most unreasonable thing imaginable. Instead of feeding his desperately weakened family, he goes to the field, and with tears streaming down his face, he takes the precious seed and he throws it away. He scatters it in the dirt. Why? Because he believes in the harvest. The seed is his. He owns it. He can do anything with it he wants. The act of sowing it hurts so much that he cries. But this is God's law of the harvest. Don't expect to rejoice later on unless you have been willing to sow in tears. In the book of Psalms, those who sow in tears shall reap with joy and shall come again rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves with them. The story goes on a little bit. Harvest responds to seed that is sown. Now we make a mistake. I'm digressing from it. I will stop just now. There are principles that govern every area of life. Do you accept that? Even though you don't accept it, it's still true. There are principles that govern every area of life. Prayer doesn't clean your house. Hello? Prayer by itself doesn't save a marriage. If you pray in every day and you're not observing some principles, you will break up. Are you there? Prayer does not bring you financial success. As important as prayer is. Why? Because there are other principles that God has set in place. So there are physical laws that govern when I go up in an aircraft. It's not prayer that keeps it flying. It's the law of aerodynamics that somebody understands and applies. Is the right law, right, Hugh? Right. Understands and applies. And they apply it properly with the 737 MAX. Put something in there that affect the thing and crash the planes. I hear people want to start a Christian credit union. I'm not putting no money in that. Telling you I put no money in that. If you tell me you're a banker who is a Christian, you want to start a credit union, I will think about that one. Prayer can't take care of people's money. Dr. Mayor, there are principles. There are principles. If we don't follow those principles, we'll be wonderful Christians who are broke and poor. So you have to understand the principles. Now, when you have done everything you can and you have followed all the rules and you can't make something, when you need to pray now, Lord, you have to come through here now because I have been diligent and I just can't make it. That is when prayer applies. There are principles. And if we follow the principles, so sowing seed is a principle, and seed is not just money. Those of you who are in school, it's time, it's effort, it's using what is in your hand. It is study. So Minoka graduated 2 weeks ago with a bachelor's degree in who? Entrepreneurial management. How? Because she took time and she used her brain. Hello? And she had to pay some fees. So we have to learn the principles, and one of them is sowing. What's the time? I'll stop in 10 minutes or less. 10:20, 11:20. By 11:30 I'll stop. We have communion. So, sow some. If you eat everything, you will never have anything for the future. I just wonder, I didn't like planting corn and planting peas. I used to like reaping. Like everybody, we like reaping. Never liked the plant. And I always used to wonder why they leave some corn on the stalk. That is one less boiled corn. Like one less roast corn. To do ship sail, how many men on board? I come from a family at 16. I talk about corn. When we boil corn, roast corn is a half a corn you get, But that's plenty. What was I saying? I went somewhere. I was talking about sowing. If you eat all your seed, you'll never have anything for the future. Never have anything for the future. I'll make one more point and then I'll stop. Save some. Remember what we heard when they talked about these wealthy people? If those 7 points, one of the points was they always live below their means. I learned a tremendous lesson from a Hindu man who taught me European history. He's still my good friend if we ever see each other. He taught me European history. But he taught me, I don't know what he called it. I give it a term, I might be giving it the right term, about inflationary living. A very simple principle that I've lived by since. He said this. He said, if you're living on $100 a month, you're paying your bills, you're eating, you're going by KFC once every 3 months. He says, what we tend to do, if we get an increase, we spend it. If we get an increase, we spend it. I know, I people work for me in different things, different areas. And you know, it's very interesting what happens to people when they get an increase. Everybody happy for 2 months. Then everybody complain they're broke. Because he says, we have this tendency, when our income increases, we just spend more. And what he said is, if you're living on $100 a month and you're getting 120, you should continue to live on $100 a month and save the 20. It's a good principle. It's a principle that I personally try to live by. So if I live on 100 and I get 120, I might spend 101. You know, I might want to improve a little something. And save the rest. Right? I save like how I eat food. We drive 2 cars, they're newish cars. My wife not here, so I'll tell you something. We bought them cash. And because they have money, when I want to do something, I save. I go on expensive vacation sometimes, when somebody else ain't paying for it, you know. Because I have money. I don't borrow for them stuff. Imagine I go on my nice vacation and next 24 months I paid for my vacation from 2 years ago. No, sir. I'll go to Tobago. Or go a little beach house somewhere and pay a little thing a night and I still enjoy my vacation. And I owe nobody anything when I finish. It's principles. Are you following me? Save some. He told them to go have a certain rich man. He said, I have no place to store my crops. And he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store my grain and my goods. I'm putting it away. I'm saving it. So I will store it. Right? Why do we save? I'm winding up. I know that could take a few moments, but I'm winding up. For an unexpected day. You know, I was telling you I don't worry about money, right? But then I tell you, I thinking about myself and I realize something. I just save for everything. I save for medical expenses, I save for dental expenses, I save for my phone bill, I save for my electricity bill. So when I get a bill, I don't stress. When my pump breaks down, I go buy a pump because I save for household things that happen. I'm not talking big sums of money, you know. I know in 8 months I have to pay my insurance on my house. I divide it 8 months by 8. Every 3 months you pay a light bill. 2 months. How much is your bill? Divide by 2. Yeah, according to what you're doing, you're right. But it's still your bill. You still don't know what your bill is going to be if you have ACs and all that kind of stuff. Water bill, light bill, phone bill. If you don't do that, every bill is a crisis. Every bill is a crisis. You know, insurance on your car coming up. When is it coming up? August? Is this making sense? You save for the unexpected. I said when something goes wrong, you don't have to stress. Now, hear this. Everybody can save. Next week I'm going to give you a handout. I wasn't able to get it done for this week. I'll give it to you next week. It's from a little booklet you could find online. When I listen to somebody and they mention something, I go and buy it and read it. And if when I read it, they mention something, I go and buy it and read it. So I was listening to somebody and saying, all these financial advisors, their advice goes back to a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon. You can get it online, PDF for free. Next week I'll summarize the 7 lessons and I'll give you a handout so you could keep and read. Online for free, PDF. It's 72 pages long if you don't like to read. It's a little thing. So I'll give it to you next week. I was talking about saving. Everybody could save. And the first principle is pay yourself first. I sure you heard that, right? This man was in tremendous debt. And he decided, I'm going to pay myself first. Because if you don't pay yourself first, you'll always owe other people. When something happens, you have to go to somebody else for money. When you pay yourself first, you always have something. And everybody can save. Even though living hand to mouth is this principle. Pay yourself first before you pay anybody or anything else. What you pay yourself is your saving. Are you following me? So all of us, if you are a serious Christian, you should be living, let me take back a serious Christian before I offend somebody. But if you are, you're putting an adjective, Christian, you live on 70% of your income. You pay a 10% tithe, you save 20%. And I just teach people, Joy, when they come insurance, I save 20%. Pay me to insure you. Saving. No matter how small your income is, it's a principle. Pay yourself first. Else your situation can't improve. You have to. That's what Warren Buffett says. He says about saving, he says it's not how much you save, it's the habit. He says more important than how much you save is the habit. So no, although things hard, if it's $10 you're putting aside, every week that $10, if I had to eat salt, I'm putting aside my $10. Or eat toothpaste like some of my friends had to do in college. And trying to pay your bills. Making sense? Pay yourself. Saving is paying yourself first. And it's recommended that you save 20% of your income. And you might do that in several ways if you want to pay Joy for insurance. Insurance is a good thing, by the way. Joy, I might be glad to hear that, right? And whoever else sells insurance in here. Right? You can't build your life on it, but in case you die suddenly, it might be useful. So I tell my wife I won't water her dead and alive. You know, she ain't praying for me to die, but you know. By the way, I missed her today because she went to the beach and I waved to her down and she wasn't paying attention and she's all bruised. So she's in a lot of pain this morning and Lawrence had to mommy sit. So he's, because I had to be here. So he's at home with her and she's recovering, right? Right, so you save for the unexpected. I'm going to stop. We went long enough. I know you're all well quiet today. I'm trying to interpret what it means. Not sure what it means. If you're just uncomfortable with the subject, or if you're listening, or if you're saying to yourself, you talk entrepreneurship, or you could talk. I know it is being, All right, so we'll pick it up next week. Time for us to wind up. We have communion. All right, we'll pick it up next week.